Well, good day, good day, good day. And I would like to say good day to all of you and welcome to another few moments with All for Success. Oh my goodness, I would have to tell you guys, I have really been going through it trying to gather myself together to get back online and do a few moments of a chat. I am so glad to be here this morning, and I'm glad to see or hear from all of you out there who are having a great time and trying to enjoy the weather that we are having is fairly great. I hope you all are having and experiencing the same thing. It's a little bit cooler than it has been over the past week, but we are so glad for that. So, good day to all of you, and welcome to All for Success. Now, this here is a very Sussex friendly environment. We like to support, from our viewpoint, the Sussex family, that is the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, that is Harry and Meghan, Prince Harry and Meghan, and of course their family and extended family. And of course, I keep my mind's eye on Doria Ragland, who is Meghan's mom, because I feel that sometimes my thoughts and my views basically would be coming from her point of view, that being the parent of adult children. Now, with all that being said in the background, it's nice to know that there are people out there that are supporting you in your endeavors, especially when it appears that you're trying to do good things. And that is how I look at my support of the Sussex family here at this channel, All for Success. All right, so as we're getting going, please get yourselves a moment to relax. If you would like to make your coffee, sit and drink your coffee. I'm not going to keep you long, I promise, even though I say that and sometimes continue to babble on and on. I just am going to give you my thoughts and chit chat a little bit, and you get your coffee, enjoy your morning. And of course, if you're getting ready to head out for church, just throw your headphones in as you're getting dressed because you're probably either running late or you should have been there already. So, with that being said, good day. And let's do that. Now, I'm going to slowly gather my wits here and see if I can point out what I need to point out as I get started. As always, with any channel, I am just getting myself started on growth. I have not really been featuring my thoughts in that direction, but I've got to learn how to do that. And I would like to say good morning to everyone who is coming into the chat. And I also want to point out that please like, share, subscribe, and that can kind of grow my channel as well. That is, if you have anyone out there that you think you can share with and that they would be interested in joining this channel or at least subscribing to it. Great. I want to say good morning. Thank you, Lorna Williams, for being here this morning. Woo! You're look first in. So it just might be you and me and whomever's out there that I haven't read in. But hey, I'm so glad you're here and thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Now let's see if I can get my panel of slides going. I believe I'm going to have to back them all up. So just bear with me for a moment. All right. I kind of quickly have to flip through these. And that is because I probably put them in here out of order. Trust me, I'm having technical difficulties. So I want to encourage everyone. It also, the second part of my encouragement is for everyone to get out and exercise if you can. If you're healthy enough to get some walking in, biking in, or just some at least enjoyment in seeing what's going on around you. If you go to the gym, if you're yoga involved, or if you're doing Pilates, please continue to do those things. And let us know also in the comments how you're doing with that, because that may encourage someone else. I know that I need to keep up my exercise program. Why? As I stated before, parent of adult children. But that definitely puts me in a age bracket that needs to pay attention to what I'm eating and how often I'm exercising. And let it be known, I also have back pain that I'm dealing with. So I'm constantly looking for things to try and alleviate that pain. And I'm telling you, if you do not have problems with your back, try not to ever have problems with your back. It's kind of unfair. It's like what's holding your entire body together is actually fighting against you. Now just think about that. It's like feeling almost from day to day like you're just going to kind of fall apart. But I need all of you definitely support each other and get some exercise in. Also, I see we're getting another person in. I see on the panel. R.R. Carter. Thank you for being here as well. Thank you so much for your support. Now, I'm a little bit off schedule. I'm going to try to figure out if there's a schedule that works a little bit better for me. Saturday morning has been good and great, but I find myself feeling somewhat rushed on Saturday morning. So I'm going to try to figure out if I should keep that and maybe just prepare or if I should move my movements along on different days. I'm not sure yet, but I'm going to keep tweaking it and working with it. So thank you guys for being here, and I appreciate your coming into the channel. Now, let's see what we've got going. All right, now, okay, on to the meat and potatoes. As we have been watching, at least from this channel's perspective, I don't replay a lot of what I see in the Super Squad world. I figure that most of us are kind of featuring and learning what's going on by seeing some of those big ads and big things being produced on the Super Squad side. But I do want to say that once again, we're going to tick off some of the great successes that the Sussex family have had, let's say over the past 2 weeks to a month. They traveled to Colombia. It was an absolute hit. It was an outstanding, um, wonderful tour that they did, and the engagement involved around watching out for kids who are online and in these online spaces. What is intriguing to me, of course, is how the media will try to flood the space with, of course, Harry and Meghan, how they seemed, what they're doing, how much they're hated, rather than flooding the space with the cause that they are being champions of. And this cause was cyberbullying. As we all know, all of us who interact on social media and interoperate in the social media space, cyberbullying and threats within the cyberspaces is becoming um, almost out of hand. Now, young people are experiencing this in a way that many of us may not ever become aware, depending on your age bracket. And I'll give you a little bit of background. I am becoming more and more aware because I have friends that operate in the gaming space. They log on, they play Call of Duty. Some of them are in the Dungeons and Dragons online forums. And within these gaming spaces, I want to say there's another game, Warriors and Wizards, but there are so many games. And these things attract younger people. They generally have a heavy attraction for children who are middle school age to high school. Well, when these kids are operating in these spaces, there are also chat boards. They're interoperating and they're typing their comments and they're basically communicating with each other during the gameplay. Some of these games that are in the virtual reality space, you can interact both audio and in the chat space. So you're interoperating almost in a live forum, right? The kids are operating in the persona of whomever they're playing and how they're playing. And sometimes the interaction that they're having, many of us would not believe what is being said and done during these games. You would probably be horrified to know that your 13 or 14-year-old kid is talking online to someone who is operating in the game space in the manner in which they are. You wouldn't believe it. So there are subjects that are being spoken about. There are, I'm going to say, threats and things being made because sometimes it's part of the game and then sometimes it's not. And then there are commentaries by other people who are maybe simply watching. And if you are paying attention to what's happening in the news in and around some of these horrible things that are happening in the schools, the different attacks that are happening in and around the school settings, you're finding that these young people are operating online with one personality, and some of these young people are bringing that personality into real life. That is why the title of today is Evaluating Reality. It's being found out, for example, that some of the children that are involved in some of these horrible acts in the school environment, they are finding that they have online personalities and that they have gaming personalities that are very violent and very angry, and that they are exposing how they might feel. And in some cases, they're talking about what they may or may not do. In many of these cases, the children are saying things in these gaming forums and in these cyberspaces that might hint at what they are up to, right? They may talk about the weapons that they're getting, the weapons that they're purchasing. They may talk about the targets, the people that they hate. This is very common in the cyberspace. And this is what Meghan Markle, or Duchess of Sussex, and Prince Harry are speaking about in the forums that they are talking and dealing with the cyberbullying phenomena. Now, what they're trying to do is to, I would say, grow a group of people, or rather grow a movement similar to that which is what we are, the Sussex Squad, to try and grow a movement similarly that is more positive among young people, to grow a movement that tries to self-monitor and to try to prevent people from going down a rabbit hole in the cyberspace where if they are under attack or if they are being targeted, where they may have resources to help them navigate that space and to fight against it. Because, of course, in the online space, and for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they are constantly fighting this battle against them in the media forum, which has also bled over into the online space, right? So who better to be a champion of this particular type of battle? Now, here's the thing. We don't know how much fighting would be done or if you could actually win against something so um, calculated and horrific. But the point is that there should always be a counter a counter to whatever is being put out there. And that has made one of the largest differences in these attacks on the Duke and Duchess. You see, as long as they were being attacked by the UK tabloid press and they were just spewing their venom all out in the public arena, and no one was offering any pushback, well, you see, they got the opportunity to come out the gate and tell their story any way they wanted to tell it. And it always began with how horrible Prince Harry had been to the royal family. There was no pushback on, well, let's talk about how horrible that family has been to him since he's been a child. Let's talk about how horrible this family was to his mother her entire time being involved with them. And let's talk about what led to her possible death in the first place. But that pushback had to happen. Because if not for that pushback, the UK tabloid press, they will never address anything that could possibly be negative about the royal family. Why? Because they must maintain their royalist stance. And so Harry is a villain. We made his wife, Meghan, a supervillain because we blamed her for everything. She came on the scene, and Harry would have been happy to go along in his misery for the rest of his life if it hadn't been for her. And therefore, she is a monster that must be destroyed. Very similar to Princess Diana, right? And so that is what Harry was dealing with and Meghan. And that is what they are talking about when they are talking about their mission and their support of all the parents who have dealt with some of the awful circumstances that fell from cyberbullying. How many children have lost their lives due to being bullied in the cyberspace? And I believe that's wonderful because it's creating a full circle. But let's turn our attention, of course, again, as we're looking at our reality, let's turn our attention to what the UK tabloid press, instead, what they focus on. Well, they're in a competition to see who can write the most awful content. They're constantly in a competition to present the most awful things to be said about Meghan, right? Who can say the worst, most vile, most vicious commentary about Duchess Meghan? They never have, if you notice, they never have any specific actions of horror that Meghan has produced. They only have innuendo that comes from Kensington Palace. But at the same time, they talk about Prince Harry being the one who has been the traitor and exposed private information of the royal family. But they never turn around and say, let's look at all the stories and things that came out of Kensington Palace about Meghan during her time in the UK. They can't seem to put those two things together. During Meghan's time in the UK, there was nothing positive that came out of the palace. There was the negative avocado story. There was the negative flower bouquet story of or the poisoned flowers, right? Remember that? There was the um there was the Kate was made to cry story. There was the Meghan is mean to all the people who are employed by her. She's actually sending out email at 5 o'clock in the morning. Remember that? All of those stories came out, but there was no discussion about anyone being a traitor in that household, right? The UK tabloid media did not feature anyone in those particular stories as a traitor to the royal family. No, those stories were highlighted, glorified, and printed, right? However, now, 4 years later, Harry writes a book, Spare, and talks about everything that was done and said to him. Now he is a traitor. And he is exposing the royal family, and he is telling secrets, and so no one trusts him. But they can't write the counter story, which is Harry got out of there and away from those people because they are traitors to him. They attacked his wife, right? And that they were excoriating both of them in the media. But the UK tabloid press will not speak from that point of view, right? They will not do it. So, what is it? It is our job as those who support them. It is our duty as those who support them to make sure that we get in the public eye and to everyone that we know this other side of the story, right? That is important. So that's what's happening in the UK tabloid press. And of course, every now and then, which is what I love, someone will speak out of pocket, like this wonderful gentleman. I believe his name is Andrew Pierce. And he came on Twitter, and his entire tirade was about how Harry should leave his wife and children and come begging to be back among the royal family. Can you imagine saying something like that? I mean, can you even believe that someone would actually fix their face in public to say that a man should leave his wife and children and beg to be among a family who treated him like trash? This is what the UK tabloid press has put out and put up, right? And the very gentleman in question actually had a series where he mentioned the fact that his own mother didn't want to even know him, right? Can you blame her? Because that is what is coming out of his mind and his mouth. So the UK tabloid press, they just keep presenting the worst among the worst among the worst, that they can say anything, right, about Prince Harry and Princess Meghan. They can say anything, and they can say it any type of way. That they can just come on television, put their big head in front of a camera with their giant foreheads, as my kids would say, right? Put their giant fat heads in the camera and have their ugly mouths and bad teeth and bad breath spit out any vile, repulsive statement they wish to say about Harry's wife, Meghan. And they feel that that should be rewarded. And the unbelievable thing is that someone somewhere is cutting them a paycheck to do it, right? So, with that in the background, and the UK tabloids trying so hard to keep this animosity alive, that they are doing any and everything they can do to maintain this animosity. They are putting and trying to paint, I believe, to paint the king himself in a corner where he absolutely cannot retreat and try to get his family to cooperate, because they're painting him as a simpering weakling if he does, right? They're painting him into a corner where he absolutely can't even step out and say, that's enough, put an end to it. He can't even do that because these gray haired, crackled old men and women are harpying in the background that everything that is wrong with Britain is Meghan's fault. So I must appeal to those who are from the UK that your country is going to fall unless you put these people in a box, right? Now, here's the thing. Here's the news story. The UK tabloid media all had to absolutely admit the fact that they gathered information illegally, both on Harry and thousands of other people. But have you heard them talking about that on a daily basis? No. That story, they put it in the paper maybe once. I think I put a note here that it was once in May. And my gosh, I don't think the UK media has gone over this story at all since. They have not acknowledged and continued to acknowledge the wrongdoing that they have sponsored. They've not continued to acknowledge it. They continue to gloss over the stories that show that they are the ones that have done various things that are illegal, that they have printed stories that are completely and patently false. And yet they will not continuously repeat that in their news media. They leave that to the rest of us. And what I'm saying is that it is our, I say our duty, right? We must take it upon ourselves to make sure that this is not forgotten, right? That it is not forgotten, and that technically these people who present themselves as some type of news or commentary, tabloid television processes, they really should be run off of television. Actually, they should have zero viewership. But whatever the feeding frenzy is that the average everyday person has, a feeding frenzy for this despicable, vile behavior and wanting to always watch a train wreck. It is part and parcel to why they continue to produce this trash, right? It's like reality TV. Why are we watching it? So, yes, now that we've gone through that bit of anger, I'm going to change gears. I'm going to shift gears just a little bit. And now I'm going to go back to saying good morning to everyone. Let's go back. All right. So once again, welcome, welcome, and thank you. Let's see. Lifestyle, LMZ Lifestyle says, good evening, Sussex Squad. So that tells me you're probably on the other side of the world. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate your support. I'm going to try to calm down. Look, I got to relax now and calm it down. Thank you for being here. Greetings from Belgium. That was my guest. Don't you? You're up late. You need to go to bed. Thank you for being here. But yes, we must maintain our support. Lorna Williams is saying hello to everyone again. And let's see who else is in the chat here. Okay, and Lorna Williams also is commenting that we're adjusting to the good weather. Yes, I am so glad it's cooling off. I was frying. I went home to visit my family, and where we're from, Southern Virginia area, it's hot. Oh my God, it was 90-some degrees. It felt like I was in a furnace. So you're saying that at any time that someone say that Harry should leave Meghan is going against their marriage, exactly their marriage vows, and that's why they are all falling one by one. I totally agree with you. You know, you're so right. You cannot continue to what I would call undercut what is righteous. That's how I look at it, and expect to thrive. And he was rightly attacked back. He was rightly excoriated back. And in the Twitter world, he was righteously ripped to pieces. But I would hope that that would help him not want to show his face again. However, I fear that it will not run them out of town. I fear that it will not run them down, but instead they will return again. So, back to the positive side of what is happening in the Sussex family and the Sussex world. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, let me give you, I think I can do this and bring up a drink, right? Because it is important. Yes, we must get ready because what is about to happen? Invictus Games are getting ready to crank up, and we are headed to Canada, people. You know, I hadn't thought about trying to slip into Vancouver, Canada, but I just might because that is where the next layer of the Winter Games, which is going to be kind of new in the Invictus Games cadre. So they're getting ready to start their work again, starting their work supporting things and worthy causes, because that's what the Sussex family does. So the commercial is out now for Invictus 2025. We're getting geared up, and I am excited. I want you to know I love to see the people who are participating, to hear their stories, and to listen to all the background information. And they put together such a wonderful, wonderful production. So let's get ready, folks, for I Am Invictus. I found it extraordinary, and I think I had mentioned this before, that I think it is extraordinary that they get the opportunity to give awards for all the people who participate in so many different ways during the Invictus Games, even the families. And I have to tell you, I agree as well that giving an award is sometimes just as heartwarming and heartfelt as those who get the awards themselves. And I think that that too speaks to the beauty and the wonder and the hard work that is put in by Prince Harry. Now, meanwhile, other people are trying to destroy him and what he is doing. But I can tell you that this alone, Invictus Games, the work that they're doing with Archwell, these things alone have already had an impact that will be far reaching, because they are working constantly with the youth. I wanted to point out the beauty of the promo that is being put out as well. They are doing a commercial, and if you have time, please check it out on YouTube. It's very slow, kind of. They're talking about the Invictus Games and people who will be participating. But I think what I found intriguing is some of the background story about where they're having the Invictus Games and how it's getting geared up. It's in Vancouver, Canada, and in the regions of Vancouver, Canada. Whistler is where some of the skiing competitions will be going on. This is actually native tribe territory, right? So it was wonderful that Prince Harry and Princess Meghan reached out to the tribes that are in that region. And they performed various little cultural events for them and presented to them. If you see the border of this slide here, this this actual border, this black and gold border that is around it, and the design that is on it, is actually presented by an artist who put that together to present to the Invictus Games. It is, I think, wonderful art. I don't know a lot about it, but I'm reading a lot about it, and I want to tell you what I did read about it, and I put that here, that it was done by some of the First Nation artists. And First Nation, of course, is referring to the native tribes that were there, for centuries going back, the indigenous. And so some of the artists that did some of this work, and I think I have combined some of the stuff about the artwork in Invictus and the artwork at Columbia. I don't know why I did that, but they have collaborated and they started to put together these different artworks. Now, some of the artwork actually has different symbolic meanings, like some of the things are tied to various aspects of nature, the wind, the air, the water, things like that. And I just thought it was intriguing how the Invictus commercials and some of the Invictus advertisers have incorporated much of that artwork. So, guys, I just wanted to point that out because I thought it was really interesting how much collaboration is done in support of the Invictus Games. Um, I am impressed by the work that they do to put this wonderful event together. And so when you look down in some of the details that they're getting involved in, it is truly phenomenal. So I definitely wish them the best. And in this article, they talked about the different people who were involved and chosen out of the artistic competitions that they had, and to come up with some of the artwork. So I hope that we can see that artwork and enjoy it, and I hope they tell us more about it even during the Invictus presentations. That was just a personal thing for me. I really like it. So keep this in mind, folks. And like I said, I told you guys I wasn't going to keep you long. I hope you don't mind me sharing some of my thoughts like this. And I'm going to try to put together a little bit more. Guys, I've got to get my production value up so that sometimes it can be a little bit more interactive. But keep in mind that the UK media is constantly trying to control your thoughts about the royals. no matter what you're seeing. So just keep vigilant and stay advised about what they are saying, and understand that half of the things they're saying is so untrue, and that the UK tabloid media is truly a trash fire, right? And so to protect your well-being, you can allow other people to consume that trash fire and then interpret to you the small things that you need to know. You do not have to comb through all their burning trash, okay? Because they're not putting out anything but garbage. They spend days and days of their UK tabloid media to discuss Prince Harry and Prince Meghan. Why? Because that's how they earn their money, right? Without talking about Harry and Meghan, they have nothing to talk about. Why? Because the rest of the royal family, well, they're just basically invisible, especially now due to illnesses and accidents and all sorts of other things that they've got going on. There's really nothing to talk about. And what they're going to try to do is to present to you some of the worst personalities and try to tell us a new story. But again, those of us who are the age of parents of adult children, you cannot sell me a story about the Queen today as if I don't know the story and the history of your current Queen consort, right? We know her story. So you can't sell me another one. So you can try and trot her over to women's shelters, and you can try and trot her over to homeless shelters. But we know her story. She's from the aristocracy. She has no love of anybody beneath her because that is who she is. So keep that in mind, folks, as I get ready to wrap us up and get us ready to wrap up. So here's what I wanted to point out, and this is the background. As you all know, I usually grab up a Bible verse that I like to refer to sometimes, or a Bible story when I'm talking about something in particular. And what I came to was how many UK tabloid TV articles or TV personalities jump out on television and try to force continued hatred between the family members. In other words, they begin their storylines with Prince William, why should he forgive Harry? As if Harry should grovel back to forgive Prince William, or vice versa. They don't feel that Prince William should offer any forgiveness. They don't feel that the king, currently King Charles, should put a hand out and welcome Prince Harry. They feel that the royal family, everyone in the royal family, should just simply hate Prince Harry, hate him, unless he crawls back on his hands and knees and begs forgiveness and completely disregard all of the things that they have done to harm him, right? That is what this is what the TV tabloids are putting out, right? Now, here's how we're looking at it from the squad perspective, is that you cannot do what you did to Prince Harry all of his life and then top it off by brutally mistreating his wife and expect him to take that forever, right? What you have now come to realize, whether you liked it or not, is that you are dealing now with a man. Every time I see someone or hear someone in the UK tabloid press talking about how much, I'm going to imitate, how much fun Harry used to be. He was so much fun, and he was always such a joker, and he was so much fun. All that tells me is that you thought this man was going to stay a buffoon and a clown for the rest of you and your entertainment. That's what you thought. You never wanted him to become a grown man. Okay? But that's what he is. So the question is now, is there such a thing as brothers' forgiveness? Right? Could it happen? Is it possible? And so that referred me back to some Bible stories. And here's one that I want to just push over to you guys if you're interested. Remember, I'm suggesting these things because what? I am not a cult member, nor am I trying to recruit you to anything in particular. All right? I'm not trying to make you join any type of religion or non religion, but I find them interesting, so you may find them interesting. Background, people. Let's go all the way to Genesis and let's talk about the story of Joseph. Many of you might know this story as referred to as Joseph of with the coat of many colors, right? Well, here's the background to the story. Joseph at the time was the youngest brother among the brothers that will become the tribes of Israel. And as such, for whatever reason, he had become somewhat of a favorite son. And this goes back to an earlier story, and you all will have to read that earlier story about Joseph's father, who really fell in love with the woman, Rachel, yada, yada, yada. And, he couldn't marry her right away, but he had to marry her later after marrying her sister. Anyway, there's background. If you ever want to, one day I'll tell you about it. But anyway, there's background. So he really was in love. His heart was with Rachel. And they didn't have any children for a long time. But once she did have the child, Joseph, it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And sadly, she died much later. I mean, died later. But that's the background story. So Joseph sort of was like the apple of Jacob's eye. He was kind of proud of Joseph, the younger boy, that he finally had the son, and he had lost the mother, and so he was kind of coddled. Well, this somewhat angered the older brothers, right? Because the older brothers were taught to work and taught to be more sturdy, I would say. They were rugged men. They were herders, and they were farmers and builders and construction and all that. And Joseph, in contrast, was sort of taught more academically. Let's say he was educated in a more academic fashion. He knew all the things that his brothers were doing, and he learned all those things. But just think about it. He was like the baby in the family. So it was a little bit maybe less painful for him to learn some of those things. And he was a little bit more adept academically. So he was interested in the stars, and he was interested in, the patterns of nature, and he was interested in things of spiritual nature and laws and things of that kind. Well, this gathered tension between the brothers. And it gathered so much tension that at one point the brothers had gathered together, and they just, they really were angry. And several of the brothers actually wanted to take his life, right? So this is the story of Joseph. So I want to get you guys to kind of creep through Genesis somewhere around chapter 35, and you start to kind of get the background and the story. And the older brothers were so angry with him in some cases that they actually wanted to kill their brother. And they basically threw him down a well. Okay. The older brother somewhat stepped in and said, "No, oh my gosh, can you even, no, I can't bear that you're going to take his life. We just can't bear it. Our father, if he found out that he died, he would be finished." Right. And so the oldest brother, I believe his name was Reuben, um, kind of stopped them from killing him, but they threw him down in the well. And so what they did do is they went out and dealt with some other buyers and sellers of people, some slavers, and they actually sold Joseph to some slavers, right? Now, this is the background story of Joseph. And here's the question to be asked. Later in life, something happens. There's more to the story, but it causes there are a whole bunch of obstacles that Joseph has to live through because he is sold into slavery, and he's sold into slavery in Egypt, and he ends up in a whole bunch of pickles. He even serves time in jail. But there things turn and things twist, and Joseph somewhat rises in stature and power. And what would happen In the land where his brothers were still living, there is a famine that starts, and food becomes scarce. And it causes the brothers to have to come to the region where Joseph is actually in a higher position. Now, here's the question: should he offer forgiveness? Should he forgive his brothers for what has happened to him? Many people, of course, would say absolutely not. Right? But I want to leave you all with this particular scenario, because this is the scenario of these brothers. What should happen here? And if the person makes a decision to do something the opposite of what you think they should do, is it the right decision? Needless to say, there is a level of forgiveness that is given. And as you all read through this story, you might wonder, was it a good thing, or does it turn out to become a negative thing? But that's a greater story. That's a greater biblical discussion. But it is an interesting situation. And that is very similar to the situation between these two brothers that we're talking about, Prince Harry and Prince William. For example, can you attack and destroy a man's wife to the level that you have and be forgiven? Can the royal family that made no statement of protection for this woman who married Prince Harry, they couldn't even be bothered to make a statement of, please leave them alone, we love them. You know, they couldn't be forceful enough about that. Should they be forgiven? I don't know. So anyway, I want you all to think on that as we go into the next hour. And I told you I wasn't going to be long. Well, okay, I've got to wrap it up now. But I want you all to think about that as we go into the next series. And I hope to see you all as well in the future on these chats. And thank you all for your support. But continue to like, share, and subscribe, and continue to support the Sussexes. I know I will. Give yourselves a round of applause, and thank you for being here.